All right, welcome back. It is time for basketball playoffs again. Thank God. Welcome back to the Why Would You Think That podcast. We've obviously been off, having no sports to talk about. We've had no podcast to air. So, basketball playoff seeds are final as of time of taping. Uh, the NBA playoffs start technically tomorrow, with this being Friday. You got the play-in game between the Blazers and the Grizzlies, and that's where I really wanted to start off with getting into the matchups and just giving a couple of my thoughts on this. So you got Blazers, Grizzlies. Obviously, how the format works is Blazers are the 8 seed, Grizzlies are the 9 seed. Blazers need to win one game to solidify them being the 8 seed. If the Grizzlies go on to win 2 games without the Blazers winning one, they would move up to the 8 seed for the right to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'll probably just roll into that. I think Blazers probably win the first game and the play-in tournament tomorrow. I think Blazers have too much firepower. I think they'll take advantage of the Grizzlies being undermanned with Jaren Jackson Jr. out. People don't really give him enough credit for what they do. Everyone wants to talk about Ja Morant. But he does a lot of great things defensively. He can shoot. Jaren Jackson Jr. can shoot the three and give them some size along with that being a center. So I think Blazers win the first game, get it done. The Lakers Blazers first game is on Tuesday, and I'll just roll into that. I think Blazers have a lot of firepower. Now, if you're expecting any semblance of defense with this series, you're tuning into the wrong basketball. Both these teams lack defensive prowess. I was watching Nets Blazers last night, and you watched a Nets team with a lot of G League players, and Karis LeVert was very, very good. Joe Harris taking advantage along with Jared Allen, but you're looking at a team who doesn't have their best 5 players, and that it's a Nets team that had a 7-point lead late in the fourth quarter, and you're kind of wondering to yourself, because the Nets had the right to knock the Blazers completely out of the playoff picture. You're just kind of wondering, is there going to be defense played at all so they can save their season here? But the Blazers, what they're going to do is their firepower, they're just going to try and outscore you. I think most of the Laker Blazers games will be a race to 135, considering Lakers struggle with defense. I mean, who the heck is going to guard Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum? Now, it is interesting because I learned the other day that CJ McCollum has a broken bone in his back, but he seemed to play really well, at least last night against the Nets, shooting, getting to the free throw line a couple times. Uh, the Blazers don't have anybody who can guard LeBron James or Anthony Davis. I mean, Yusuf Nurkic had such a huge problem last night just trying to guard an offensively challenged Jared Allen. I think Blazers can win 2 games, but I really see this going 6 games. Lakers will probably figure it out after a slow start and take advantage of the lack of defense. And Dame Lillard, who I think he's playing extremely well, but he's playing a lot of minutes, and it's going to start to take its toll because when come playoff time, it's not like your minutes go down being the star player that you are. So I think Lakers in 6. Again, if you're a betting person, I bet on whatever overs to a certain extent because you will see little to no defense being played. Let's roll in since that covers the playing game, which is the most upcoming game. Let's roll. Let's just go down the line. Clippers, Mavs. Again, you have with speaking of lack of defense for one of these teams, Mavs don't play. Excuse me, a whole lot of defense. I was watching. It was Portland, ironically Portland, Dallas, a couple days ago, and I watched Porzingis trying to guard the likes of Hassan Whiteside and Yusuf Nurkic in the post, and it was just such a struggle each and every time trying to keep him in front of him, trying to get rebounds over those guys. And Porzingis really does need to play more into the paint offensively, and granted he played really well, picking, popping, tearing apart, shooting threes against the Blazers, but you're not going to always he's not going to be that efficient all the time. he needs, I think, in my opinion, needs to work a little bit more inside out. And I was watching Shaq the other day because it was on TNT talk about that, and he can do both. But I think he'll have some opportunities with Montrezl Harrell not being back yet. He announced the other day he's coming back, but he won't be there in time for at least the first couple games. And I think Porzingis will be able to take advantage of either. I'm guessing they're going to try and put Zubac on him. I mean, he has the agility. Man, he's got more agility than him, and he can just get to the rim, pick and pop him. And Luka's phenomenal. His assist numbers in the bubble, creating shots, taking advantage of his dribble drive, kicking it out, finding people, no-look passes. It's been really, really impressive. Mavs offense is technically the best in the league. I think the Clippers will just be far too much. I think the Clippers are going to be like the Terminator here. No pun intended with Kawhi, but like they just bring wave upon wave upon wave of talent at you. If it's not Pat Bev, it's Reggie Jackson, who's a pretty good player. If it's not Lou Will, it's Kawhi or it's Paul George or Marcus Morris. I mean, they just send weight and they play defense and they can just create offense and they will just make you uncomfortable on both ends of the floor. I think it'll be a gentleman's sweep. I think the Mavs will be able to squeak out a win with their offense. I think they'll be able to just outshoot the Clippers for a game. But I think it'll be 5 games. I think the Clippers will definitely be able to take advantage of the lack of defense from the Mavs. All right, let's move on. Nuggets, Jazz. Jazz kind of slipped late in the bubble. They were a 5 seed, with the Thunder being the 6 seed, but after losing a couple games and the Thunder playing pretty well, the Jazz will take on the Denver Nuggets. One thing that concerns me, if I'm the Utah Jazz, is we don't have Bojan Bogdanovic due to injury, and he was huge for helping create offense and his shooting ability, being a free agent signing from Indiana this offseason. But the thing is that I'm noticing, even with the likes of Mike Conley and Joe Ingles on the floor, when they don't have Donovan Mitchell, their offense struggles. I mean, Mike Conley seems to play a lot better with Donovan Mitchell on the floor, same with Joe Ingles. But one thing I've noticed is when Donovan Mitchell's not on the floor, their offense sputters and just isn't there for minutes on end. Now, obviously, with the playoffs, Donovan Mitchell's going to play more minutes, but like, you gotta help your guy out sometimes. I'll see Donovan Mitchell on the bench, and there'll be teams. I think it was this actual matchup in the seeding games, and it was a crazy game. It went 2 overtimes, but it was like there were times the Nuggets were being just running up and down because the Jazz could not find anything, and there was a couple other games like that. For the Nuggets aspect, I think with the emergence of Michael Porter Jr., if he can keep this up in playoff situations the way he's been playing, I mean, he's averaging 16 more points per game compared to before the shutdown and in the bubble. Jokic is playing very, very well. Jamal Murray, if they can get him playing big minutes because he has had some injury concerns with his hamstring and some other things, if he can be there, they're going to need him. Gary Harris is obviously not there. I mean, a side note, I've been loving watching Bol play, dunking on Lou Williams against the Clippers the other day. That was awesome to watch. But I think this will probably go 6 or 7 games. I think this will be highly competitive. The Utah Jazz, known for their defense, they still play hard defense. I think I struggle with it because the Denver is just deep and they play together and they play hard and they have better talent than the Utah Jazz, in my opinion, with Jokic, Murray, Michael Porter, the emergence of Michael Porter Jr. I think it goes 6 or 7 games, but man, I think Denver's going to get. I think that Denver will take care of them eventually. But I think this will be a lot of fun to watch. You'll see the offensive Denver, defensive Utah, and see if Utah can't get better as the playoffs go, or this series go with their offense, because it hasn't looked good yet. All right, let's finish off the Western Conference here. We got Rockets, Thunder. I think this will be the first seed line I pick not for chalk. I think the Thunder do win. Russell Westbrook won't be there for at least the first game or two. I think that hurts the Rockets' ability to rebound, to be able to run, to keep the pace up like they have done at times. Thunder, they play hard, man. And Chris Paul is going to want revenge. I mean, you saw it in the regular season game between the Thunder and Rockets during the regular season before the shutdown. Thunder play defense. They play hard. Chris Paul is their leader. You can see when they were doing interviews with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander during a Thunder game a couple days ago, and just talking about how Chris Paul has just really helped with communication, with all the aspects of running a half-court offense, and Chris Paul, creating shots, and that Billy Donovan deserves a lot of credit because his identity. He loves to try and get that defensive mentality, and they play defense, and Steven Adams has been playing really well. Chris Paul, I think, they play hard. They're very cohesive. They play together. I think the Thunder get this done. I know the Rockets have been playing some really nice ball. They're small ball, and they beat the Lakers. They beat some other teams. I could see. I really do believe the Thunder are going to get this done. They're going to beat the Rockets, and Chris Paul is going to have something to say, something chirping to say at the end of it, because Houston shipped him out, and him and James Harden really didn't get along, which was pretty evident at the end of their term last year. So that's that's our Western Conference portion of how I think things are going to go. I think Blazers beat Grizzlies in the playoff series pretty easily. I think that they take a pound of flesh out of the Lakers. I think their scoring, their guard combo, they'll cause some serious headaches with that, because the Lakers don't have Avery Bradley, one of their best perimeter or guard defenders. Little defense being played there, so I think Lakers win in 6. I think Clippers are just far too much for the Mavs. I think the Clippers will just send wave after wave after wave of attack, of defense, of offense, of playing hard. Pat Bev's probably going to guard Luka Doncic, honestly, and he's going to give him some trouble at times and some words. So I think Clippers in a gentleman's sweep over the Mavs, although I will say definitely watch that series, even though it might not be, the Mavs might only win a game. It'll be a lot of fun to watch with their offense and just how they play, and they're just super fun to watch with the combo of Luka and Porzingis. I think Nuggets, Jazz probably go 7 games. I think Nuggets pull it out, though. I think they'll just be able to overcome the war of attrition between the two, and I think they just have more depth and more offense. So I think Nuggets in 7. Rockets, Thunder. I think Thunder win. I could see the Thunder winning in 6, depending on the timetable for Russell Westbrook, because even though I've really soured on Russell Westbrook in recent years due to his playoff performances and how his team has fared, he's done a lot for rebounding for this team, driving, kicking to open guys for threes, because we all know Houston loves to shoot the 3 ball, but he's been able to create a bunch of shots for them. I do think the Thunder win probably in 6. They actually play defense. Houston does not. That's a common theme in the Western Conference, apparently. No defense. They don't have the size to rebound, and if you can just out-rebound them for a game or two and get that advantage and start to build that momentum, I really think that could be detrimental to the Houston Rockets, and I think they get put away in the first round. So that's our Western Conference my Western Conference breakdown. First game for Blazers, Lakers is Tuesday. Clippers, Mavs is Monday. Nuggets, Jazz is Monday. Rockets, Thunder is Tuesday. Again, it's just going to be really fun to watch the Western Conference